What is going on, everybody? I am Hoops and Hip Hop, and welcome to the 10th episode of the Pokeblock Podcast. I honestly cannot believe that we've already been doing this for 10 weeks and 10 episodes. It's really crazy, and I just want to thank you guys so much for your support that has allowed me to do this for this long. I want to thank all the guys at UCast Studios that have brought me on. I want to thank, once again, you guys for coming over. It just means a lot to me to be able to have the opportunity to do something like this, and I'm very appreciative, and I really hope we can do it. I really hope we can do it for as long as possible, so I just really wanted to say thanks to you guys. As far as today's episode, though, it's going to be kind of an interesting one, because something I like to do before the beginning of every episode is basically kind of just talk about what's going on in the world of Pokemon, like since the last time we talked, essentially, because obviously we're going to cover news if news happens, and sometimes it takes up a whole podcast episode, but sometimes it doesn't, and I still want to highlight it just because it's obviously like what's going on. It's the current events, and today, while it's not really enough to talk about in terms of a whole episode, there is a lot going on that's kind of not only worth noting, but it also can incite a larger discussion. So I do want to get into that a little bit, but then we are going to kind of get into a funner topic, or a more fun topic for you grammar Nazis out there, towards the end of the podcast. And that's going to be all to do with my Pokemon team for storming Area 51, because you guys know that's super important. But getting into the first little bit of our topic for the podcast, we are going to be talking about the news that's happened in the last week. And there's actually, even though there hasn't been a lot of main series news, I guess you could say, about Sword and Shield, there has actually been a lot of news about mobile related titles for the Pokemon franchise, specifically Pokemon Go and Pokemon Masters. Starting with Pokemon Masters, which is obviously the brand new mobile game that's coming out. If you're not aware of it, basically it's kind of, it's more closely like tied to the main series in terms of play style or whatever. It's all about basically all of the iconic trainers and Pokemon from the main series are coming to this game, and it's basically all about the iconic duos, I guess you could say, of trainers and Pokemon. You've got Red and Pikachu, you've obviously got Blue and Pidgeot for some reason as his signature Pokemon. You've got like all the gym leaders, champions, like all that type of thing. Basically, they're all featured. And your goal is to kind of just go through this adventure kind of with your own Pokemon and teaming up with these other iconic characters. That's kind of the appeal of the game. And a bunch of stuff was revealed about it throughout this week, including like we got like a release date of August 29th. We got like information on the evil team. Apparently they're called Team Break. To be honest with you, I've been following it, but I haven't been following it super closely, so I can't like tell you all the intricacies. I mean, I know I'm probably doing a terrible job, but at the same time, it's a mobile game, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit later with this discussion. But yeah, so there's just a lot of information coming out. For some reason, they have decided to offer a special preview version, but as far as I'm aware, it's only available in Singapore, and then I heard it's going to be available sometime later in Canada. So that kind of sounds to me like they just like spun a globe like around and closed their eyes and just laid their finger down wherever the globe stopped spinning, and that's where they decided to do the preview version, because Singapore and Canada, that's just about as random as you can get. But that's basically what's going on there, and with Pokemon Masters, it does seem exciting because it is more of like a high-profile mobile game, as opposed to just like a dinky, like, low-res one, I guess you could say. So that's exciting, but it's also, I don't know. It also is, I guess you could say, concerning in a way, and that's once again what we're going to be getting into after we get through all of the news, but that's essentially what's going on there. I haven't, like I said, I haven't been following it a ton. I haven't been getting, like, too into it as far as just, like, what's been coming out about it, but it is kind of like interesting and cool enough that I think I am at least going to give it a try, just because there is some hype, there is some buzz about it, but I don't really anticipate me playing it for a super long time, just because I am not a mobile gamer. I don't really like mobile games. They don't really offer me the experience I'm looking for, and they're just really not for me. So even though it does look really cool, unless it like sucks me in, which I doubt, I'm not going to be playing it for a long time. And that's exactly what I did with Pokemon Go. I mean, I was really into Pokemon Go when it started, but I just I got to level, I think I'm like level 23 or 24 now. And I got really, really into it. That was all within like the first few weeks or month or so of the game being out that I got up to level 23. So I was really into it. I was super into it, but, I kind of just fell off. I think after I like started catching all of the Gen 1 Pokemon that there were to catch, and none of the gens were out at that time. So there just wasn't, I don't know, it kind of slowed down for me a little bit, and I just stopped from there. And once I stopped, and I just haven't really picked it up much since. I will say that I think the game is really fun now. Like, I've picked it up a couple times since, just for like certain community days and whatnot. I like tried out the Cyndaquil community day, and now that there's so much more Pokemon to catch, it is so much more fun. I will give it that. But because like the irony of it all is that you have to go out and do stuff to play it, and I'm a YouTuber who sits at home all day and just like records videos and does nothing with his life outside of his house. I don't really go anywhere that often, and so it's just not a game that I can like feasibly play, especially when like where I live there aren't any like real Pokestops around me, because I live in somewhat of a rural area, and so it's not like I could just like take a walk every day and play it that way, because I don't have any Pokestops near me. So I kind of get screwed over a little bit that way. But much like Pokemon Masters, I really like the way that Pokemon Go is a little more high profile. Not only does it have the appeal of catching Pokemon in the real world and that type of stuff, but obviously it's continually updating itself. It's not just like out there and it's like, okay, have fun. It's like it's refreshing itself with new updates all the time. It's bringing out new generations of Pokemon like every few months, which I think is a really, really good way to do things like that. And then it's bringing in like events that people can do, like community days and raid battles and legendary Pokemon. And now we got the most recent event with Team Rocket. Team Rocket and Shadow Pokemon were introduced into Pokemon Go, which is really, really interesting because like we have obviously not had any like villain like battles or anything like that. Apologize for my phone. I didn't turn it off. But we haven't really had any like antagonists in Pokemon Go or like any evil team representation until now, which is kind of surprising when you think about it. But the idea of it is really fun, especially when they incorporate Shadow Pokemon. Shadow Pokemon aren't even a thing that appear in the main series games. They appear in Pokemon Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness, which are like fan favorite side games. But it's still kind of surprising to see them appear like in this type of thing, but welcome at the same time, because once again, it's just kind of one of those big updates that brings a lot of new things to the game that shows that they really care and they're really invested in it, which I think is the biggest difference, especially when it comes to a mobile game, because with mobile games, I think people just want to see that effort's being put into them, because mobile games do have a bad reputation when it comes to just like being a cash grab or just being like the lowest amount of effort required to build a game is what's put into them and all of these different things. And so seeing that they're still supporting the game so heavily after 3 years, and it's just got all of this effort that's being put into it, is really, really nice. I really appreciate that from Niantic. I mean, it's not necessarily surprising considering like Pokemon Go is like the most popular mobile game or maybe even app of all time. Like, to be honest with you, I can't remember what the numbers are, but it definitely is just ridiculously like making tons of money. And this is even after like the initial wave of like Pokemania that it single-handedly brought back. This app is a revolutionary app. That's why it's around, and that's why it's going to be around for the foreseeable future. But But yeah, just overall really cool stuff. But then on the flip side, there is one other thing. It's a smaller thing that relates to mobile games that happened in the past week. And it just happened, I think it just happened yesterday. And that was the announcement that Pokemon Duel, which is kind of like this figure battling game, if you haven't heard of it, that's also a mobile game, is actually going to be shutting down and like ceasing, and it will no longer be playable after October 31st, at least from what I hear from Cerebi. That's the news from Mr. Joe Merrick there, and he does not lie. And so basically they launched one more update. The game's going to be available until October 31st, once again, from what I hear from Cerebi and from Joe. And then the game's just going to be done. It's not going to be playable anymore. And this is where the discussion comes into play. This is where things get sticky. Because for as great as these other two Pokemon games are, Pokemon Masters and Pokemon Go, as high profile as they are, as invested into them as the Pokemon Company is, they are cursed with the platform that they're on, being a mobile game. And the problem with mobile games is essentially kind of like the problem with an online game, is it's completely controlled by the developer. It's completely reliant on the servers for that game and for the system being active, and it's completely reliant on other people also playing. And basically what that means is that one day, whenever the publisher decides to, they can shut down the servers, they can cease support, and you will never be able to play that game again, no matter how much you want to, because it relies on a connection to the internet, which eventually is going to go away, and you don't have control over when it goes away. So basically, they control how long you play it, they control the value of the game itself, and it doesn't matter how much time or effort or care you put into it, or how many things you've earned in the game, or how high your level is, or anything like that. It just all goes away when they decide to. When they decide it goes away. And that only lasts like a few years from the moment the game comes out. And that's the big problem. Is that, like, Pokemon Go, for as phenomenal as it is, like, I absolutely do not see it going away anytime soon. But when it does eventually go away, like, it's not only a mobile game, but it's a mobile game that's based on the internet. And when Niantic decides to shut down the servers, you're obviously not going to be able to go find Pokemon anymore. You maybe will have access to, like, your Pokedex that you could still look at, but I kind of even doubt that, because all of that information is also stored on a server. So basically, you're just not ever going to be able to play again once they decide that they're done with the game, and all that you will have left of the game is the memories that you made, which is all well and good and wholesome and things like that, obviously, but it just completely screws over the consumer, especially if you're the type of person who is going to put in a lot of money into that type of thing. And so I think it basically, this whole situation calls for a very, very fine treading of this line when it comes to what Game Freak and the Pokemon Company are doing, because you can't really fault them for making mobile games, because A, they're in the gaming industry, and mobile gaming is huge, whether we like it or not. B, they are the most lucrative and profitable, intellectual property that literally exists. Like, they are above everything, whether it's gaming related, non-gaming related. So they would just be stupid not to put out some mobile games, given like where they are, like given the situation they're in. It kind of just falls in their lap to make a mobile game here or there. So I don't fault them for doing it, but the thing that becomes concerning is that they start making these higher profile games that look really, really fun, are really, really fun, people can get invested in, and then eventually they're just going to cease and go away, and you won't be able to do anything about it, and you won't be able to play anymore at their discretion. And for really, really good games, that's honestly such a shame. Like, for Pokemon Go, I guess there's no real way you can avoid it, because that's the kind of game that, like, has to have a connection just due to its unique, like, real world mechanics. But something like Pokemon Masters, for instance, where it's got more of a main series experience, that, I mean, it could be able to, like, rely on itself in terms of, like, being active indefinitely. But if it's like all of these other mobile games where it just ceases, like, activity after 5 years, you're going to have a game that's like a really cool game with a really cool concept that just basically gets struck by an iceberg that causes it to sink, no matter how good it is or how much fun you had with it. And it's just completely unfair to the consumer, the player, and it's just not healthy for the game industry, because that is just like a toxic way to do games where the developer and the publisher is controlling your enjoyment of them, because that means they own a monopoly essentially on everything that is going on, from your, like, enjoyment of the game to, like, you purchasing new games. Like, they can literally control you purchasing new games because they control whether or not you can play the old ones. And I think that is a very big concern, if I do say so myself. I'm not, like, concerned that the Pokemon company is an evil corporation or anything, and they're going to be, like, making all mobile games in 5 years that are only online, and, like, it's going to be just, like, a terrible, terrible, like, dark ages of gaming. I'm not that concerned about it, but just with everything that is going on with the Pokemon company right now and Pokemon in general and all the Sword and Shield controversy, even though I personally don't think that Sword and Shield is, like, in trouble, I guess you could say. I don't think it's shown a lack of effort. I think it looks just fine. I'm really excited for it. There is definitely controversy going on, and with this, like, controversy going on with the main series, which is, like, the big thing that we all enjoy and like love more than anything, but then you see these bigger mobile games kind of getting more of a, I don't know, I wouldn't say more of a favoritism, but you see bigger mobile games coming out that are, I guess, kind of getting more of a focus, while at the same time this main series game is having so many struggles. That kind of is a little bit concerning, because it makes you wonder how big mobile is going to get in terms of the Pokemon franchise. How much of a focus is going to be put on mobile gaming when it's all said and done, and as we go into the future. I think Pokemon will always be reliant on, obviously, its main series, because the main series is the engine that pushes it forward. But I don't know, it just kind of makes you think, like, are bigger games going to start coming to mobile devices, and how is that going to affect the effort that's put into the main series? Like I said, I'm not too concerned about this, because I think there's always going to be a level of effort and pride and just respect that's put towards the main series. I don't think that's ever going to go away, but I definitely think it's something to pay attention to. And regardless of whether or not you like mobile games, there has to be a fine balance with them for the reason I talked about, just because they can be so easily manipulated by the publishers themselves. And just for gaming to stay healthy as a whole, they're definitely, like, mobile gaming cannot full on take over. Like, in order for gaming to be healthy, it needs to have a presence on consoles. It needs to be able to have a dedicated device where it can thrive and just truly be the best it can be. And so I think it's up to us as fans to kind of, like, keep the gaming industry honest when it comes to getting a little too out of hand with mobile games, because you can't really fault them for making them, because they're making them a profit. It's obviously a part of the gaming industry that needs to be tapped into for them from a business standpoint, but you don't want to let them get so crazy that they just give up on console games and we never see true actual video games again, because they're just all on phones. Like, that is definitely something that can never happen if we want the gaming industry to continue to thrive. So I think this is all kind of a lesson on just enjoying what mobile games have to offer, but not letting them get too crazy, making sure you support the main series of, like, in this case, Pokemon, or you support the dedicated gaming industry, and kind of just watch yourself as you support mobile games. Like, I don't know, as much as you might enjoy a mobile game, I wouldn't support it like so much and then not even give a main series game a chance, because then you're just perpetuating that mobile game market that could very easily become toxic if we don't, like, keep it under wraps and don't let it get out of hand. So kind of an interesting discussion. Once again, I don't want to sound gloom and doom. I'm not worried that it's going to become just like, I'm not worried that it's going to ruin the main series or anything. I'm not that concerned, but it's just something to think about with everything that's going on, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. But with that being said, that was like 20 minutes. Wow. Really, really crazy, to be honest. I didn't think we'd talk about that for 20 minutes. But since we still have about 5 to 10 minutes, I guess I'll still go ahead and tell you guys the topic that I actually planned for this video as the main topic, ironically enough. We kind of got into a good discussion there. But that is my Pokemon team for Area 51. I'm sure you guys have seen all of the memes and things that have been going around about Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us. We're going to be going there September 20th. We're going to be finding the aliens. We're going to be Naruto running faster than their bullets. And we are going to be finally discovering all of the answers and the secrets of life that are within Area 51 that we've all wondered for so long. However, even though there might be a lot of us, and even though they might not be able to stop all of us when we charge that mysterious facility, we definitely still want to be prepared. We definitely want to be smart about this. So naturally, we want to bring a Pokemon team with us in order to help us out, and that's what I have decided to assemble together today. My rules for this is that I'm going to pick a team of 6 that I would like to have if I were to storm Area 51. And my only rule for building this team is that I can't have any legendary or mythical Pokemon or anything like that. I can only use regular Pokemon, because if I could actually use Pokemon, all of the legendaries and mythicals would probably be in Area 51 anyway, so I'd only have access to the regulars, and so that's what I'm going to go with. But without any further ado, since we just really need to get into this, my first Pokemon that I would have is Shuckle. And the reason why I would have Shuckle, and I was going to clarify and fact check myself on this before I actually started, but I didn't, so you're just going to have to rely on my memory as a Pokemon fan and my knowledge that I may or may not have. But Shuckle has the highest base defense of any single Pokemon out there currently. I'm pretty sure that's still accurate. And not only does it have the highest base defense with multipliers and different things like that, it is capable of having the highest possible defensive stat that you could have in a Pokemon. And if I remember correctly, once again, and this is all based on memory, I failed to fact check myself beforehand, but with the use of Trick Room, since Shuckle is also capable of having the highest base defense stat of any Pokemon, sorry about my phone, with the use of Trick Room that flips stats around, I believe it's also able to have the highest based attack, because that defense gets converted into attack. I hope I'm not talking nonsense. But either way, at the very least, with Shuckle being able to have the highest defense of any Pokemon, obviously we're going to need some defense on our team if we're going to be storming a top secret government facility. And even though Shuckle is a little small boy, I'm not going to deny the fact that he knows how to defend me. Plus, he kind of looks like an alien too, and I think maybe he can kind of just blend in and just kind of help me sneak in there, and then by the time they figure me out, he's got me covered as far as the bullets go, because he is a strong, very defensive boy, so he is easily on my team. The next guy I would have after that is another easy choice, and that would be LGM. The reason why I would have LGM is because literally LGM is the extraterrestrial Area 51 Pokemon, so to speak. It's based on the the UFO sightings of Roswell, New Mexico, which is kind of just down the road from Area 51, and it's probably where all of that stuff went. So I am basically having LGM on my team as a scouter, as the guy who kind of can navigate us into the facility because he knows what's going on, because obviously that's where LGMs are going to be kept. Like I don't know how they exist in the real world of Pokemon, but if they actually existed, I'm sure that that's where they would be. But it's still it's still a regular Pokemon, I should say. So that allows me to have it, and so I would have it as like my navigator, as the Pokemon that would like show me how to get into Area 51. And then on top of that, it's also a psychic type, which is going to come in very, very handy when dealing with military stuff, obviously. So that is why I would have LGM. And then from there, I think in order to combat any aliens or any funny shenanigans in that area that the government might want to use themselves, because if we're using Pokemon, they're probably going to use Pokemon too. I feel like I probably want a ghost type, not only to combat that kind of stuff, but also to once again help get in the facility, because ghosts are ghosts. They can go through walls and all that type of stuff, so that's fun. And what better ghost type for Area 51 than Rotom? Because not only is Rotom a ghost type and therefore can do the whole float through walls thing, but it also has the unique ability of possessing electronics, which is going to be extremely useful in a military facility like Area 51. And because in recent years, Rotom has kind of got progressively more and more demoted from a legendary to a mythical or to a regular Pokemon, because it seemed like he was a legendary in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl when like you encountered him and he had like the legendary music playing in the background and all of that stuff. But then as we've gone along, he's just been more commonized to the point where he's able to be used in the Pokedex, like in Sun and Moon, for instance. So at this point, he's definitely more of a regular Pokemon that I think I can use, and he would be a no-brainer for Area 51 because he could take control of all the rockets and computers and stuff and just wreak havoc on the base and allow us to get in and do what we needed to do. So he is easily a no-brainer. And then the next Pokemon that I think would be very useful is Arcanine. And Arcanine would be very useful for several reasons. Number one, it's strong, so obviously you just want to have it there for the strength factor, but then you can also ride on Arcanine. Arcanine is a Pokemon that we could essentially ride into battle, which is definitely going to be very useful because we can only move so fast, even with the Naruto run. I know the Naruto run is like essential here, and it's so useful. But even with the Naruto run, we can only move so fast as human beings. And so I think bringing something to ride on is going to be useful as well. And Arcanine is a great Pokemon to ride on, as we've seen in games like Let's Go or the Pokemon anime. And the key thing that makes Arcanine a better Pokemon to ride on in this situation than anything is the fact that it can learn Extreme Speed. And if you watch the anime, Extreme Speed is when a Pokemon's speed goes to the extreme, which obviously is going to help us not only avoid them bullets and see them aliens, but it's also going to allow us to get into the facility that much more easily, because we'll just be able to kind of extreme speed our way through all of the gates and extreme speed our way into storming the facility, just so they're caught off guard and don't really have the chance to shoot any of us. So that I feel that is a very essential value that Arcanine can bring to the table. And then likewise, speaking of riding Pokemon, I feel like if we're going to have a Pokemon that we can ride on from the land, we're going to need a Pokemon that we can ride on from the air, because an air assault is definitely going to be a very strategic move that we want to take advantage of. And I believe there's probably no other regular Pokemon that we could ride into battle into Area 51 than the brand new Pokemon from Sword and Shield, Corviknight. And I say Corviknight because not only do we know that Corviknight is a very rideable Pokemon, because that's kind of its role in the games, even though we don't know too much about the Pokemon, we know that that's kind of what it does within Sword and Shield, so we know it's very capable of being ridden. We also know that it's a very large Pokemon, so it could carry multiple people and just be that much more easy to ride because of that. And then it's also a steel type. It's a primary steel Pokemon. And that's obviously going to be useful in terms of like knocking down bullets and just getting into the facility in general because it's going to be more durable. So a steel bird flying Pokemon where we can attack from the air and it's defensive already, that is definitely going to be something we want to bring to the table when we storm Area 51 on September 20th. And then the last Pokemon that I am going to bring with me when we're storming Area 51 is a Pokemon that's basically just strong for being strong because we definitely need some brute force when we're going to be trying to get into this facility, and that's going to be Tyranitar. And the reason why I choose Tyranitar is because A, it is a brute force kind of Pokemon. It's a pseudo-legendary. It's very, very strong. It has access to a mega form, a mega evolution that would be very, very useful. It's based on Godzilla, so obviously it's going to be able to do some damage, especially to the military. And it just would fit perfectly in Area 51. Oh my gosh, I just sneezed on a podcast. What am I doing? 10 out of 10 professional. Anyways, the reason why it would be so useful in Area 51 is because A, it's a rock type, and it has the ability, or it has access to the move Sandstorm, might have the ability Sand Veil. It's hard to remember all the details about every single Pokemon, but basically, it can incite a Sandstorm, or at the very least, it is immune to the effects of a Sandstorm. And being in the desert, that's going to be very, very useful. And so having a Pokemon that can thrive in the desert like that is going to be very nice to have. And then on top of that, its secondary typing of Dark will also be very useful because if they're going to have all those aliens in Area 51 and probably alien Pokemon as well, because if we have Pokemon, they're going to have Pokemon. So many of those alien Pokemon are psychic type. And if we bring in a Dark type Pokemon, it's going to have the advantage. So just a simple Pokemon type matchup is definitely going to be advantageous to us as well. And with a Pokemon like Tyranitar, who thrives in the desert where Area 51 is located, and it's just really, really strong in general, is a definite must-have for Area 51, and that I believe that is the ultimate Area 51 team. If I'm going to Area 51 and I'm going to be trying to see them aliens, that's the team I'm bringing with me, and those boys, I believe, would have me absolutely succeeding, and I would be bringing home every single alien and discovering the secrets of the universe. And I just think there's no other way to do it. But with all that being said, that pretty much wraps up this episode. And this was actually a really fun one. I did not expect this to go this way. I think the mobile discussion was really fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed the Area 51 nonsense. I just thought that would be kind of just fun to spitball about. But if you guys did enjoy the episode, be sure to leave a like if you're on YouTube. Do whatever you do on iTunes and Spotify. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on social media if you follow me. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I just really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm once again so thankful for you guys listening in. Be sure to tune in next week. As always, we do this every Friday. We either talk about the news that's going on with Pokemon Sword and Shield, or we talk about fun topics like this. And obviously, this was a very fun topic. So it is a great time. We'll be here every week. And like I said, we will for sure be here next Friday as well. So with all that being said, I've been Hoops and Hip Hop. You can check me out on social media, YouTube, whatever you want to do. Be sure to check out UCast Studios once again on YouTube and Twitter as well, all that good stuff. And we will be back next Friday with another episode. So until then, I will catch you guys later.